There is a battle inside you that you pretend doesn't exist. Not because it's invisible, but because facing it cost you everything you've learned to lean on. Stop mistaking distraction for peace. Meet the fight. The life you avoid is the life you are meant to defend. There is a war in most human lives that looks quiet from the outside. People assume it is an argument with circumstance, money, relationships, career, but the real campaign is interior. Below the level of conscious strategy, it is a contest over allegiance. Will you obey the voice that keeps you small? Or will you answer the voice that calls you larger? Most of us choose avoidance because avoidance is deceptive. It appears to be reasoning, prudence, or self-care. We call delay planning. We call distraction rest. We call compromise maturity. Those are polite words for surrender. Why do we pretend the battle isn't there? Because recognition forces accountability. When a truth arrives that demands we change, it also demands we pay. Payment looks like loss of habit, loss of approval, loss of a familiar identity. The human nervous system prefers the manageable losses it has rehearsed. A known loneliness, a predictable paycheck, a quiet resentment over the unpredictable instability of becoming someone new. Evolution wired us to value belonging and immediate safety. The call to grow often threatens both, so the inner sensor outfits fear with the language of wisdom. Not now, be reasonable. You must be responsible. These rationales are the camouflage of avoidance. Denial is also profitable in the short term. It keeps your social ecosystem intact. It preserves roles. It prevents the trouble of hard conversations. You can maintain the neatness of the surface life while the deeper parts of you whisper, "This is not yours." The price of this neat life is slow. It accrues like small, invisible interest on a debt that will one day demand repayment. The emptiness, the boredom, the shape of your recurring regret are the compound interest of the deals you made with comfort. Another reason the battle stays hidden is cultural. We live in an economy of performance. The world rewards motion. A calendar full of activity sells worth. If you are busy, no one asks whether the busyness is toward the right end. Busyness itself becomes an alibi. People watch the achievements and assume everything is in order because appearances are easy to measure and inner fidelity is not. So the inner war is buried under public metrics that make shallow living look respectable. There is also the private art of self-deception. The human mind is rarely honest about the true costs of its choices. It will rationalize the small betrayals. I'll start tomorrow. I'm being patient. I need to be realistic. Language becomes anesthesia. The more practiced the rationalization, the more the mind believes its own story, and the less likely you are to perceive the conflict for what it is, a moral emergency. At that point, the battle has already stealthily restructured your identity. You inhabit a life negotiated by compromise instead of one authored by intention. Recognizing the existence of the war is the first revolution. Name your avoidance without self-condemnation. The aim is not to guilt yourself into action, but to spy the mechanisms. Where is your energy going? Into scrolls and numbing substances? Into justifying safe smallness? Into a role you inherited and never evaluated? Trace the expenditure. When you can chart the flows of your attention and desire, you can see the real front lines. Another feature of this secret war, it creates convincing counterfeits of virtue. People who are deeply engaged in the battle often appear disciplined, caring, or steady. They can be excellent caretakers of other people's needs, exemplary neighbors, and high performers in safe domains. The tragic genius of this arrangement is that you are rewarded for being the person you think you must be, while the person who would have been you quietly atrophies. Praise becomes a trap because it confirms the small identity and strengthens the very patterns that keep transformation at bay. There is a dignity in understanding the strategy of avoidance. When you know how you are tricked, you can begin to design your life differently. The strategy looks simple, but it is courageous. You must choose to invest attention where it is most costly, to schedule the discomfort that produces growth, and to accept short-term social penalties in exchange for long-term moral and psychological sovereignty. This is not reckless rebellion. It is the disciplined refusal to allow habit to dictate destiny. Finally, remember that the battle is not only about victory, it is about fidelity. You are being asked whether you will keep a covenant with a deeper truth inside you. That covenant is less glamorous than conquering a mountain. It is the quiet repetition of choosing what matters each day. It is keeping small promises to yourself when no one is watching. It is the slow accumulation of microacts that over time tip the scale. When you deny the conflict, you deny the possibility of fidelity. When you name it, you re-enter the realm where change can actually happen. So stop pretending the fight isn't there. Learn its contours. Map the ways you numb, rationalize, and barter away your future. The moment you can describe the tactics the enemy uses, busyness, rationalization, social validation, you have already begun to win. The battle's first casualty is secrecy. Once revealed, the war invites strategy, allies, and purpose. It then stops being something you suffer from and becomes something you fight for. And the first real victory is simply to stop pretending it's not happening. The part of you that you reject, the anger, the envy, the insecurity, the hidden impulses you pretend you never feel. All of it gathers in a dark corner inside you. You keep it there because you believe ignoring it is the same as defeating it. But the truth is the opposite. Anything you silence becomes stronger. Anything you bury becomes your master. This section explores the war you fight internally, not with the world, not with your circumstances, but with the disowned parts of yourself that you keep feeding through denial. There's a strange thing about the human mind. It doesn't get weaker when you ignore it. It gets louder. It doesn't dissolve when you hide from it. It reorganizes itself into something that controls your reactions, your relationships, your decisions, and the way you behave when you think nobody is looking. You've felt it before, that sudden burst of anger you can't explain, that jealousy that embarrasses you, that impulse to sabotage something good in your life because a part of you believes you don't deserve it, that fear of being seen, truly seen, because someone might discover who you really are beneath the surface. These are not random emotions. They're not accidents. They're messages from the parts of you that you've never dared to face. You were taught, like most people, to hide anything that doesn't fit the polished version of yourself. You were taught to swallow your emotions, suppress your thoughts, bury your pain, pretend everything is fine, smile when you're breaking, act strong when you're exhausted, and convince the world that nothing gets to you. And because of that, you created a second you, a darker you, a shadow that follows every step you take. Not evil, not wrong, just forgotten, unheard, unintegrated. But here's the disturbing part. The shadow doesn't stay silent forever. Every time you deny what you really feel, every time you pretend a fear doesn't exist, every time you hide a truth that scares you, you feed that shadow. You give it energy. You give it purpose. You give it power. It may not scream. It may not demand attention, but it influences you in ways you don't even realize. Think about it. Why do you repeat the same mistakes? Why do you attract the same kind of people who break you? Why do you sabotage opportunities right when they start going well? Why do you explode at tiny things when you normally stay calm? Why do you panic at success but tolerate misery? Because the shadow, the disowned parts of you, hates being ignored. It will twist your behavior, distort your choices, and push you into situations that force you to confront it. This is why your life feels like a loop. Why the same lessons keep returning. Why the same pain keeps repeating itself. Not because you're unlucky, not because life is unfair, but because the part of you you refuse to face is the part that controls your life from behind the curtain. You can't heal what you pretend doesn't hurt. You can't change what you refuse to acknowledge. You can't grow while dragging a version of yourself that's never been allowed to speak. And here is the most powerful psychological truth. The shadow becomes destructive only when it is ignored. When you face it, it becomes your strength. Imagine this shadow as a wild, frightened animal inside you. If you lock it away, it becomes violent. If you neglect it, it becomes unpredictable. But if you approach it with honesty, if you acknowledge its existence and it stops fighting you and starts guiding you, anger becomes clarity, fear becomes awareness, pain becomes wisdom, shame becomes responsibility, and insecurity becomes the fuel for transformation. Most people never experience this. Most people spend their entire lives running from themselves, wearing masks so tight they forget who they were before the world taught them to hide. But not you. Not anymore. If you're watching this, it means you're already standing at the doorway of inner confrontation, the place where true growth begins. And yes, it's uncomfortable. It's terrifying to admit that the real battle isn't with the world. It's with the pieces of yourself that you locked away because facing them felt too heavy, too painful, too real. But here is the truth that can change your life. The moment you turn toward your shadow instead of running from it, It stops being your enemy and becomes your greatest ally. It's the part of you that holds your untapped strength, the part that carries your deepest intuition, the part that remembers what you dream about, what you once believed you could become, and what you've spent years trying to silence. You fear it only because you don't understand it. But once you do, the fear disappears, and what rises in its place is power. The kind of power that makes you grounded, aware, unbreakable, and whole. This section is your reminder. You cannot win a battle you pretend doesn't exist, but the moment you face the shadow, you begin to take back your life. There comes a moment in every person's life when the mask they've been wearing, the confident one, the calm one, the unbothered one, begins to crack. Not because they want it to, not because they're ready, but because the truth inside them has grown too large to stay hidden. You've felt this moment before. That split second when someone says something small, but it hits you harder than it should. That unexpected wave of emotion that rises in your chest from nowhere. That one tiny trigger that pulls out a reaction you didn't plan. An edge in your voice, a tremble in your hands, a flash of rage or sadness you thought you buried years ago. That isn't weakness. That isn't failure. That is truth leaking through the cracks. The truth you've been avoiding. The truth you've been running from. The truth that has been knocking on the inside of your ribcage whispering, "See me. Face me. Stop pretending." But pretending is easier, isn't it? You've built an identity around being fine. You've convinced yourself that holding everything together makes you strong. You've wrapped your pain inside layers of humor. Distraction, work, ambition, silence. Anything that keeps you from confronting the part of you that feels broken. You've looked in the mirror and said, "I'm okay," even when you weren't. But here's the thing. The truth doesn't disappear just because you refuse to look at it. It waits. Patiently, quietly, growing stronger with every year you push it away. And when the mask finally slips, even briefly, you see a glimpse of what you've been hiding. Your unmet needs, your buried fears, your unspoken disappointments, your fractured self-worth, your unexpressed grief, your unhealed wounds. It's uncomfortable, almost terrifying, because in that moment, you realize that the battle you thought you were fighting with the world was actually a battle within yourself. Let me tell you something profound. Every mask you wear is protection, but every mask you wear is also a prison. You wear it to feel safe and to avoid judgment, shame, rejection, but it also blocks you from authenticity, growth, and genuine transformation. The mask keeps you functioning, but it prevents you from healing. And healing doesn't begin with courage. It begins with honesty. Honesty with yourself about what hurts. Honesty about what scares you. Honesty about what you want but don't feel worthy of. Honesty about the flaws you've hidden because someone once made you believe they made you less. Here's a truth most people never understand. Your unfiltered self is not dangerous. Your ignored self is. Because the moment your mask fails, even for a heartbeat, everything you suppressed rushes to the surface at once. Anger that has been simmering for years, sadness that has been trapped behind a forced smile, fear that has been covered with fake confidence, shame that has been suffocating beneath perfectionism. And here's the trap people fall into. They blame the moment. They blame the trigger. They blame the person who said or did something small. But the eruption didn't start there. It started long before, with every emotion you said not now, with every truth you buried, with every piece of yourself you decided wasn't acceptable. You can hide pain, but the body keeps it. You can bury emotion, but the unconscious stores it. You can silence your truth, but it will find its own voice. This is why some people break down unexpectedly. It's why they suddenly lose control. Why they snap. Why they feel overwhelmed by emotions that come out of nowhere. They don't come out of nowhere. They come from the places inside you that you stopped visiting. They come from the wounds you never touched. They come from the inner child you silenced. They come from the parts of you that begged for your attention and received only avoidance. And the mask, no matter how strong, cannot hold back what demands to be seen. But here's the beautiful part. This moment, the one you fear, the moment your mask breaks, is the beginning of who you can truly become. Because for the first time, you're not performing, you're not pretending, you're not trying to be who you think the world needs. You're simply you, raw, unfiltered, unpolished, human. And that is where real transformation begins. Not when you're strong, but when you're real. Not when you're in control, but when you're honest. Not when you're perfect, but when you're willing to see yourself without judgment. The moment your mask breaks is not your downfall. It is your awakening. It's the moment you realize the life you've built on top of emotional avoidance is too small for the person you're meant to become. It's the moment you understand that strength isn't about appearing untouched. It's about facing what touches you deeply. It's the moment your real self finally has space to breathe. This is why the crack in the mask is not something to fear. It's something to follow. Because if you have the courage to keep looking at what breaks through, the grief, the fear, the anger, the unmet needs, you'll discover something extraordinary. Nothing you face within yourself has the power to destroy you, but everything you avoid does. The truth that leaks through your mask isn't coming to punish you. It's coming to free you, to remind you that your real power isn't in hiding your wounds. It's in integrating them, understanding them, transforming them. And once you do, once you let your authentic self rise from behind the performance, you become someone the world cannot shake, cannot manipulate, cannot break. Because you finally belong to yourself, there comes a moment in your inner battle when you realize something unsettling. The enemy you've been fighting is not the world, not the circumstances, not the people who disappointed you. It's the part of you that you've never learned how to sit with, the part you've exiled, the part you've labeled as wrong, weak, dangerous, or unacceptable. And what's truly strange is that this part of you has been trying to help you all along, even though its methods look chaotic, emotional, and sometimes self-destructive.